Welcome to The Writer's Dream. The Writer's Dream is a forum where authors can speak about their books, how they write them, how they publish them, and how they market them. You can see The Writer's Dream here at LTV. Please look at the program listings. We are also broadcast from public access Cablevision all over Long Island and newly at Wappingers Falls. Please again consult your program listings. We are on YouTube under The Writer's Dream, and we have a Facebook page. If you have any questions or you are an author who wishes to be on the show, please contact me through the Writer's Dream Facebook page. Today's guest is John Cardone. He is a repeat offender. And, John is actually the founder of Long Island Authors Group. We have talked about Long Island Authors Group on the show before. It's a wonderful organization for authors, published authors. He is also CEO of his own company, Hospital Video Network, and he is an author. He has written a novel called Without Consent, and then he has also written a collection of short stories, Tales Under a Full Moon. But today he is going to talk about his latest endeavor, which is called Water Views, and it is a picture book. And I will say no more. I will just let John talk about this. It's a beautiful, beautiful book.
Well, thank you very much. It was really a wonderful passion for me to be able to combine so many things that I enjoy. First, I enjoy the outdoors, and I enjoy photography. So kayaking along the Long Island waterways, I found these most incredible scenic views, such as this picture here,
Yes.
which is from Yaphank Creek, which is off the Commons River in the tidal area below Montauk Highway. But also the wildlife that are on these waterways is just being so close to nature. There's nothing like that. So I had an opportunity to combine my writing, my photography, and my love for the outdoors into a book called Water Views. And it's a collection of photographs, thoughts, and experiences. And I tried in the book to give the readers some insights into not only the outdoors and wildlife, but also I delve into conversations about life itself, including things like sickness and loss, friendship, and these kinds of topics, happiness. I write about happiness. So it's really a very entertaining book that almost anyone on Long Island, and even actually off Long Island, would enjoy.
Well, I think they would enjoy just the beauty of Long Island. I think there are a lot of people who don't understand Long Island. They have no idea how beautiful it is here. And I was shocked one time flying over Long Island and looking down to see how much of Long Island is rivers, creeks, lakes, sinkholes. It's not just the shoreline there, and those little. There's a preserve right across from it's the Sears Preserve on Flanders Road. We got lost in there once. Went on a hike and got lost in there. But there was one beautiful, exquisite pond after another, and so I can really relate to what you're saying. And I think, from my point of view, this is a special book because of the insights you put into it. So would you like to share some of those?
Well, that's an interesting question. And when you say insights, you mean from a writing point of view or from a photography point of view?
Just that. I think it was the last thing you mentioned, the little conversations you kind of have mentally while you're out there.
Well, that's true. I have to say that most of the time I paddle by myself with my kayak. I enjoy the serenity of being alone. Running a business, it's a stressful situation. So being out on the boat among nature is a very calming type of de-stressing experience for me. But I also enjoy taking friends and family out and touring with them, and that's when these conversations come up. And they're very interesting types of conversation. One time I was paddling with a friend, Jim Wilson, and we started talking about happiness. And we were happy where we were, but we also realized that a lot of people have trouble with happiness. And for me personally, when I was heading into middle age, I found myself wondering about, was I happy? And I started to do research and look into it. And those are the kinds of conversations one might have. Also about friendship, I was paddling with my friend Larry, and we talked about his career and how he was making a gigantic career change. So paddling along, you just get into these deep conversations about life.
Yes, because you're disconnected from.
That's right.
You're disconnected from all of the. It's almost like cutting ties, and you're out on the water, and the water is so serene. I kayak too. I haven't done it in a number of years for a number of different reasons. Want to go back to it because I did. I found it so blessedly serene, besides the excitement of finding these little coves and the birds.
Yes, yes.
The birds are incredible.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I'm trying to think of any deep conversations I had with friends while I was kayak, because I don't do it alone, because I'm concerned about, if something happens, I would be alone. And I can't remember any deep conversations. Mostly it was trying to hit somebody else with the paddle for something they were doing, which can be funny, but
Well,
yes.
it's interesting because of the times that I've been out on the water paddling with friends, I look around and hardly see any people. And we say, why aren't there thousands of people out here on the
God,
water?
there aren't thousands of people.
As there are on the highways, which always surprises me that there aren't more people doing this type of sport. And it's interesting because many of the waterways that I paddle, such as the Connecticut River and the Commons River, and also out in Orient, the Orient Beach State Park area,
that's beautiful,
are
too.
wonderful hiking areas. So people don't have to kayak to enjoy these waterways. They can actually see them from the shoreline and do these hikes in these areas, especially in the Commons River. The lower section is in the middle of the Wertheim Preserve, which is a national wildlife refuge. And they have many miles of hiking trails. So it's very easy for people to find these places. And I'm astounded, actually, because they're so secretive that no one really knows about these areas.
It's
And,
kind of nice.
yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is. Yes.
Yes, but I'm always surprised at people's impressions of Long Island. Long Island is really just a collection of hidden treasures, and
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm glad
Yes.
that you brought them to light. Would you like to tell us about some of your bird encounters?
Sure. Well, this particular one here is one of my favorite photos in the book, and it's actually printed. This particular photograph is printed on canvas paper, which brings out the texture. As you can see in the reflections in the lower third of the picture, it actually looks like an oil painting where
Yeah.
I may have taken brush strokes and created these artistic-looking reflections, but actually
Probably.
it's a picture, it's a photograph, and because the kayak is low to the water,
Right.
I'm able to get an angle that's very unusual. Standing on the shore, you don't see these
No, I know.
same views.
And you also probably created those ripples with your kayak.
Actually, probably, because the kayak is always moving, which
Yeah,
makes
I-
photography on the water a bit of a challenge.
bet.
I have a section in the book called Moving Photography, and it's kind of a play on words because moving photography is when you see a picture that draws your attention and might move you to an emotional response, but also moving photography because the kayak is moving through
Always
the water.
moving.
And it's a lot of fun to kind of sneak up on these birds, and I'm very respectful. I try not to shock them or do anything to make any of the wildlife have a bad experience because of my presence in their refuge. But some of the birds on your left, for example, the snowy egret, the white bird is a snowy egret, and I snapped that over in Setauket. I love to paddle around Conscience Bay in Setauket Harbor, and it's a wonderful area. It's also a developed shoreline. There are many homes along the area, but there's also places that are full of different collections of foliage and reeds, and the wildlife love it. On the left is an osprey that was, I actually
favorite bird.
spied that osprey flying and tracked him to this perch. And I must have been maybe 100 feet away. So the camera I use has an interesting zoom that allows me to go, the digital equivalent would be something like 1,000 millimeters. And I'm able to get very good close-up
Beautiful.
pictures.
Yeah, I live near the Massapequa Preserve, and there is a kingfisher who lives in there. And I walk in there often, and I know where he likes to be, and I can always tell when he's there because he chatters like a squirrel. He has a very different, kingfishers, all the birds have different
Yes.
tunes, but I can hear that chattering. So no matter where I am, if I hear that chattering, I know there's a kingfisher around, and that's also a very beautiful
Yes.
blue and white bird, blue and
Yes.
whatever other colors. But
Actually, that preserve there, I know it well because my wife and I bicycle there, and it's beautiful, especially in the
must stop for
fall.
tea.
With the fall, the colors around the lakes and ponds of the preserve
yeah,
are very,
it's
very
beautiful
beautiful.
in there. For about 6 or 7 days, it's spectacular, and then all the leaves fall off, all at one time. It's utterly amazing. But have you ever done, you know where the Three Village Inn is in Stony Brook, in the, like the old town where that funny clock is? There's a path there that leads off, you know, if you go to the very end of the road, you look and you can see the harbor, and to the left is a path, and it takes you right into a blue heron rookery. There's like 100 of them in there.
I haven't been to that particular path as a trail, but I have kayaked that area from the water point of view. I actually put in ahead of the harbor, and then kayak both would be north and then east into the Stony Brook Harbor area. But there's a very fierce current there. For anyone who is a boater, knows you have to be very cautious of the currents and understand the tides, especially if you're alone on the kayak out in the water.
Yes, I never kayak alone. I cross-country ski as well, and it's the same experience because you're out in, that I'll do alone, but you're out and you wonder why there aren't more people because it's so beautiful, but it's a very solitary, very quiet kind of a sport. And when I think it's when you're alone that you see the wildlife. If there's a crowd of you, you're always talking and you scare them all away.
One of the things I enjoyed doing in the book was writing about the history of these waterways and the history of the communities surrounding them. The Connecticut River is located in Great River and bordering Oakdale. And in Oakdale is the Dowling College, for example. And that has roots as far back as the Vanderbilt days, when the first mansion was built there.
Right, and also there's a Vanderbilt mansion that was LaSalle Military Academy, and now it's St. John's.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
It's off the river as well, just before the Great South Bay. It makes for beautiful waterway paddling. On the Commons River, the original river, how it's got its name was Samuel Carman's, who owned the mills and a tavern in the area, and. It's interesting when you go back and you see these historical figures and learn more about their history and their impact on Long Island. On the Connecticut River also is the Bayard Cutting Arboretum. And Bayard Cutting, the Cutting family that donated that property to the state that allowed it to become an arboretum is fascinating history of these families.
Yes, they do a wonderful tour.
Yes.
House tour, and they don't have all the original pieces, but they have donations so that when you tour the bedrooms upstairs, there's clothing of the era. It's just, and it's also a warm house. It's a house you can imagine living in. I go there often to use the cafe, just to sit and enjoy the river. It's a beautiful place.
It is a very relaxing, calming type of setting, and so you don't have to be on the water. And the Manor House, and one of the photographs that I particularly enjoy, and I don't know if your camera can see this one, but it's a beautiful picture from the water of the Manor House, framed by the trees and the great lawn, and especially in the fall, when the colors on these trees turn into spectacular, do a wonderful show. And you don't have to be on the water to enjoy it. Although the photograph that I have here is from the water.
Yes. Well, I think what you said about being in the kayak and being very low to the water is a very, very good perspective. It just really allows you to see everything differently. Whether you're traveling by car is the worst. Being on cross-country skis or in a kayak or on a bicycle, you see things so differently because you're moving more slowly.
Yeah, that's the whole secret, is to move more slowly. When you're in a car, you're flying by the settings. When you're on a bicycle, you could slow down. When you're walking or kayaking, you're going very slow, and it can be very enjoyable.
Yeah, you would probably. Have you ever gone to the Everglades?
I have. Yes, on a trip down to Key West. We stopped at the Everglades. We took one of those boats that have the big fans on the back,
airboat,
zooming through and seeing all the crocodiles all over the place. It's a very interesting experience, but it's a lovely
Beautiful
setting.
Beautiful birds, incredible birds there. I visited a friend last winter, and she's a bird watcher, so of course she pointed out all the, I know that's a cardinal, that's a blue jay, but it's very interesting. So what is your most exciting story doing this?
Oh, let's
Adventure.
see. Well, I have a bunch of stories in here because kayaking can be a lot of fun by itself, but the things that happen are quite funny. And one of the funniest experiences I ever had was I was paddling alone out of the Connecticut River, and I went into the Great South Bay, and west from the Connecticut River is the Heckscher State Park, and that's a nice state park for anyone who enjoys picnicking, bicycling. But they have a field reserved for the Suffolk County Aero Modelers Association, and these folks fly airplanes, and they're not small. Some of the
Little
wingspans, some of the wingspans are 6 feet on these model airplanes, and I very much enjoy when I'm bicycling the area, stopping and watching them remote control flying these planes all around. Well, from the bay, you also can hear and see these airplanes. So one day I was out paddling and I was enjoying watching. I spotted one of these airplanes circling around, but all of a sudden it started to, I could hear it sputtering, and there was some black smoke coming from the engine, and all of a sudden it did a tailspin and it crashed into the water about 50 feet from my bow. And I said, oh my goodness, look at this. And when I looked at the shoreline, I saw these two gentlemen come running out. So I paddled over to this airplane, which was in pieces, gathered it together on the deck of my boat, and tried to find a way to bring the kayak to shore. And those two gentlemen really enjoyed the fact that I did an air-sea rescue that day.
Yeah, that definitely was an air-sea rescue. And that's... Did they give you a reward?
No, they just thanked me for being there, and it was a lucky moment.
Yeah, we have one of those fields on the South Shore in Cedar Creek Park, similar type of thing,
Yes.
the other shore.
Yes.
But you told me an interesting story about the bridge.
Yes,
If
yeah.
you visit John's website, it starts out with a little video of John's kayak. You can see the bow of the kayak going under a bridge. And I jokingly sent him a message yesterday, don't hit your head on that bridge. And then today he told me
Yes,
a very cute
there's
story.
a couple of bridges. Now, the area we're talking about is the tidal section of the Commons River below Montauk Highway. Now, it's interesting when you think about it, that a river, which originates as fresh water, moves not by hills or mountains like you might find in upstate New York or Pennsylvania, but instead by underground water that rises to the surface and gathers with the rain and melting snow, and it creates a river. Of course, it's not a roaring, raging river,
Thank God.
but it does have a movement. But below Montauk Highway, it becomes tidal, because it mixes with the salt water from the bay.
Right.
And that means it rises and falls depending on the cycles of the moon.
Sure.
So paddling from the put-in place at Montauk Highway south, you are in this area of this tidal stream. And you have to go underneath the railroad bridge, which you joked about, and that's the bridge that you see in some of my photographs. But also below that, heading south, is the one-lane trestle bridge for the Wertheim Preserve. And that is very low. And that was where I got stuck on 2 occasions, not just one, but 2. And the very first time I was coming out of the water, and it was in the fall. I would say the water temperature was probably